Good afternoon. Again, I'm Richard Trevino. I'm the 502nd Civil Engineer Director. So I want to welcome today for our June Town Hall meeting. So we want to be able to do is really focus today on the progress that's being made to date in terms of how we're working towards improving the quality of the housing here on Joint Base Randolph. So as we get started, I'll open up to General Lindeman to give a few opening comments and then also to start off in terms of our Town Hall. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Richard. Well, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, sorry, I just sat down. Now I'm going to stand up. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. If you haven't been to one of our town halls, welcome. We're here to answer any of your questions. We're going to go through a couple of slides, give you an update on some of the progress that we've made from the military side of the house. Typically, Hunt Housing would be here as well to advocate for what they've accomplished. We do have 2 slides that we're going to brief on their behalf, but they were not able to attend this town hall in particular. But we're in daily, hourly contact with them, so if there's questions that fall into their lane that we can help answer, then that's what we're going to do and carry that message for you to them. But big picture, we work in this effort since around January timeframe. As many of you know, military housing is under review, and what we found over the last 15 years or so of military privatized housing, we as a military and a government haven't done a great job in terms of keeping up with our privatized owners and making sure that we are holding them accountable to ensure safe and healthy homes for all of you. And so over the last several months, our DOD and our Secretary of the Air Force in particular has made this a priority. We have gone through a military housing review. We've surveyed your homes. We've talked to many of you in person. We've walked your homes. We're working through some details, a lot of progress in some homes in particular. But what we want to do is make sure that everybody has a voice and that you feel this is a safe environment for you to express your concerns and detail your exact situations if you're not getting your needs met. We do have a tape going on, a recording of this event in the back. So if you're not comfortable having your name or your address, because sometimes we'll ask you your home, your address, your street address, so we can follow up, just let us know and we'll redact you from that recording, which we usually post within a couple of days on our Facebook page. So we do want to make sure that folks that can't make it to this town hall are able to watch it online. So with that, we're going to walk through and introduce the team up here. This is our leadership team that's responsible for making sure that you have a safe and healthy home. And Richard, if you could also introduce all the folks over here, and Diane, of course, and Ed.
Thank you. So what we have in terms of our leadership team, so if I don't know all the names, I apologize. So I know we have Colonel Garrison, who's our Security Forces Deputy Commander. We have Colonel Oakland, Colonel Robinson, I apologize, sir. The 12th Training Wing Commander, I apologize, it's been a long day. So we also have, okay, so I said, I know you're new, I don't know your name. Oh, that's correct. So thank you very much, Major.
Yes, so I'm Major Arrington, and I work here on Randolph under the Bioenvironmental Engineering flight. So give you some water qualities and such is something that we excuse me, a little nervous, that we're sneezing. So we provide water reports for the base housing and such. So that's one of the things that we do for you guys.
Go ahead, Vinny, you can introduce yourself then.
And I'm Major Vinny Sage. I am a JAG at Fort Sam Houston, but we oversee all three locations: Randolph, Fort Sam Houston, and Lackland.
And then we also have our Command Chief, Chief Lantane. And then so I apologize for the ones next to you. I don't quite. Thank you. And then we have Lieutenant Colonel Steve Lamb, who's our Deputy for the ISG. We have Mr. Bill Conchu, SFG. We have James Graham, who's the 902nd Civil Engineer Director. We have Joe Hockaday, who is also the Deputy for the SFG. I don't have my glasses, so I apologize. Lieutenant Colonel Cage, correct? There we go. There you see. I am old and I apologize, but I just don't have my glasses like I should. Also, a couple other presenters that we're going to have here, to be quite honest. So other than myself, we're going to have Diane Butler, who's part of the Randolph Housing Office, and also Ed Roberson, who's the asset management flight chief, will be talking about the household good issues and questions that are related to that. So in terms of the speakers today, you're going to see the three of us coming up and giving short presentations from that perspective. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the town hall. Next slide, please. So what we wanted to do was really just basically give you an update from the last town hall and the things that we have been accomplishing. So one of the things that we did said was the referral package that Vinny and his staff went out there and completed. We did send that out. That was a request of the last town hall in terms of the legal assistance that we can provide residents. So hopefully you did see that in terms of that being pushed out to each of you. If you have not seen that, please let us know. You can get with Ed, you can get with Diane or James Fisher, who's the JBSA housing manager. Just let us know, and then we'll go ahead and get you a copy of that. But that provides, again, information for you as residents that here within the Air Force, within JBSA, rather, you have certain rights and you have certain actions that we can in turn help you with in order to help you navigate through the challenges that you're having with base housing. We also talked about, so Colonel Beach, who was the AFCEC division chief, was out here, and he also provided information on the actual 1-800 number that the Air Force has established. We sent that 1-800 number out. So at any time as residents, if you want to talk to somebody other than us here within the JBSA leadership, you can in fact talk to the Air Force Civil Engineer Center, which is the executive agent for the Air Force to oversee the housing issues. You can talk to that 1-800 number and you can go VFR direct to them. That way, if you want to even just go outside of us, or even come through us, but still talk to them to give them your concerns, you still have the ability, you have another avenue, another mechanism to get your concerns out. And they are representing the entire Air Force, so they will look at it from the entire portfolio. And they in turn will work with us to try to resolve your issues. We also have basically weekly discussions, and quite honestly, we're in pretty much daily discussions with Hunt at this point in terms of the status of work orders. So what we've been doing, and our commitment to you has been making sure that work orders do not stay there a long time, especially if they're an emergency or an urgent work order, or they in fact getting done. So we are tracking those. So for every unit that we have, we track the work orders to make sure that there's at least progress being made. So that's what James, Diane, and the staff that we have here within terms of the housing office, that's what we do. So hopefully you're seeing improvements from that perspective, but if we see something that is taking a bit longer time to get through, then we in turn will engage with Hunt as your advocate to make sure we try to get those work orders accomplished. And what we also did was to help with the communication piece internal to the Air Force. One of the things that was brought up during the town halls was, so who's our advocate? Who do we contact? So what we did is in order to give you a person dedicated from that standpoint that you can talk to, we also assigned, based upon your housing, your building number, your housing unit, persons that are going to be looking specifically for your areas. Now, that doesn't mean if the person's busy, that doesn't mean that you can't talk to anybody else. We want you to call the housing office, but we want you to be aware that we do have people dedicated to address your concerns so that if something does come up, you can easily talk to these individuals. Now, granted, any one of those are available, but we have people assigned to specific areas to help better meet your needs. We're also looking where we worked with Hunt. So one of the concerns also from the town hall was when a house was being vacated, we want to make certain that the house is in fact being repaired so that it in fact can be properly occupied with somebody coming in. So what we did is we worked with Hunt, and basically we now do 100% oversight. So before somebody moves in, we, our staff, General Lindemann staff, will go into the house to make certain that it is ready for move-in. And that's intended to make sure that when we say it's good to go, so some of the houses we know that they have been, people take them sight unseen because they have to move. But that still doesn't mean that the house should not be COM ready, correct? That's what it should be. So we're going to, as part of our oversight, we're going to make certain that that is happening. And if we have to go out there and work with Hunt to get them to make changes, to do something a little bit different, we're going to catch that before the resident physically comes in so that when the resident comes in and actually starts moving in their furniture, their household goods, there shouldn't be pests on the floor. There shouldn't be roaches or ants or any of that stuff. Things should be working. Things should be painted properly and so forth. So that's where we're going to provide that 100% oversight to make sure that that's happening. And Hunt has assured us that they are committed to making sure that they have that from that perspective. So we'll be there to make sure that it's done. Also, one of the things that you're going to see today, if you have not heard, so we are going to provide some information on the household good discussions. There's some things that just literally recently have come to light within the last week. When it comes to household goods in particular, if there are concerns with household goods having mold on it, how are we going to transport those goods so that there's not an impact to the resident? So the time that comes up where we need to, in order to pick up your goods, that the actual JBSA individuals, the movers, actually take them. So some things have recently come up that was brought to our attention, required us to resolve that fairly quickly. So that's something that we have working on. Ed's going to go in and give us an update on that. So thanks to Colonel Cage and his staff working with JBSA to make that happen in a very, very short period of time. It worked out well. So we do have some rules of engagement that we're going to have to do, and that's going to do some work on our part as JBSA and some work on Hunt's part as the housing owner. So it's not one or the other. It's collectively us working in tandem to make sure that we get you what you need so we can basically transport your goods. Okay? And then the improved oversight, that's going to continue. That goes back to what we're talking about in terms of the 100% oversight. We're going to continue to do that. That's the Air Force's commitment to make sure that we're providing you quality homes. So as we go through the process, whether it's people moving in, people moving out, those are the things that we're going to take a look at. We've also been asked that when people move out, to have us also be there as part of the move out to make certain that residents do not get charged for a carpet that may have been perceived to be damaged, so that there's some concerns with that. So we will be looking at that as well to support the residents to say, well, I'm concerned that I may be charged for carpeting because of pets or otherwise, but it was already there when I moved in. So we're able to do that as well in order to help you in case that there's any types of discussions or concerns. Okay? Any questions so far? Great, thank you. So we'll go to the next slide. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have Ed now give you a talk on how we're going to be doing the transportation of the household goods.
Good evening. So the summer always brings an interesting part of military life, and that's PCSing to your next location. Everyone seems to be wanting to go during the summertime. We have 34 moves that are planned over the course of the summer for here out at Randolph. Moving is not anyone's favorite thing to do, and a military move isn't any better. You're worried about getting to your next duty station or school along the way. And so the last thing that we want to do is find out that there's a hiccup in loading up of your goods that then either causes a delay or causes more stress of getting to your next duty station, or if you're going back to home station and ending your career. So we want to try to, the steps that I'm going to outline today are really to help your move go a little bit smoother. So what started this, we did have a shipment that was being packed out in the last couple of weeks that the shippers refused to take. They didn't want to take it because they were afraid there was mold on the furniture. There wasn't any actually present on there that they could see, but they were concerned about it, so they said, no, we're not going to take it. Of course, now the reason why the movers do this is because once it goes into the box, they're a private company. They're now responsible for what it looks like when it comes out of the box at your next station. So if they have any doubts or concerns on there, they don't want to be the ones opening it up and finding out that there's something in the box. And this really came about when we have hurricanes. When you think about what happened at Tyndall, everyone's household goods were damaged in the flooding. A lot of movers got hit with damages for their furniture once came up, and they'd open it up and it was wet when it went in, and so therefore it was moldy when it came out. But it doesn't mean just because you're moving on Randolph that they're going to reject your shipments or anything like that. So the main thing I wanted to do tonight is to outline some procedures, and also to assure you that if we follow these procedures, these recommendations, you really should see no hiccup at all when it comes to moving your household goods. So first and foremost, I'll just go over real quick what the JBSA requirements are for your furniture, and that is basically it says you cannot have any visible mold on your furniture. It doesn't say that you have to do a test to say it's clean. It just simply says there can be no visible mold. So, and they really want that certification, if you will, or they want that assurance, would be a better word for it, about 2 weeks out. When they're scheduling your move is when they want to know if there's going to have an issue, because if so, they want to make the mover who's actually going to come and do the move aware of that. So first up, what we had decided to do with LRS and JBSA and Housing and Hunt and my environmental staff, which I'm also committing to this, is that about 6 weeks out, you really need to do a pre-move inspection, if you will. And so what we're offering is our services, where if you will schedule in that 6 to 8 week frame, get on the schedule so that in the 4 to 6 week period, we can come out and look at your furniture. When what we're going to be doing is looking for visible mold or any surfaces that the furniture might have been touching. If there is mold on the furniture or on the wall surfaces or whatever that the furniture is in contact with, then we'll go on to the next phases. Most of the houses are going to end at this point. I mean, during the health surveys that we did here since January, we've gone through about 80 houses here. There's really only a small minority of houses that we've had any issues with. So we don't really expect to see any issues coming up on furniture down the road. But what we're doing is we're offering the service to you if you would schedule that pre-move inspection where Hunt, my housing office, my environmental staff will all go through and we'll look, and that way we'll know if there's anything that we need to worry about as far as your furniture goes. And like I say, for the most part, this is as far as it's going to have to go. So next slide, please. Here's why we need to look at that 6 week or that 6 week mark about doing the inspection. If we do find mold on your furniture, and it could be a single piece of furniture that you can easily clean, or it could be something more extensive where it takes a very large scale cleanup of the household goods, it takes about 2 weeks for that large scale cleanup to be done. And like I say, JBSA really wants to have 2 weeks prior to the movers getting here of knowing that it's all complete. So there's about 4 weeks of cleanup time and contact time with JBSA that we need to provide before the move happens. And honestly, it does take a little bit of time to get scheduled into the company who's going to do the cleanup for you. So that's why 4 to 6 weeks is the amount of time we need to know if there is a problem. So the earlier you can get that pre-move inspection scheduled and have us look at it so we know whether or not you have a concern or where there is an issue, we can make sure that those issues are addressed prior to the mover showing up. What we don't want to be is being in the active process of cleaning the furniture when JBSA is actually, or when the movers are showing up to move, because they will look at it and go, well, even if it's all clean, it's still wet, you know, so they don't want it to go in their boxes when it's wet. We need that drying time. And that was indeed the case that we had here. It wasn't that there was anything on the furniture, but they saw the cleaning taking place and they're going, no, I don't want to take that chance. So the way that we get around that, again, is let's identify any problems that might be out there early. I don't expect to find many, but the only way we know is to go look. And then that way they can be addressed early, and then everything will be ready for when your move happens. Yes, sir. I'd be willing to do that even if you're not having movers. I'll commit my housing staff and my environmental staff. I can't necessarily commit other people's staff, but I can commit mine to it. So, yes. Anyway, that is, oh, yes, ma'am. So on some of the areas, the companies that we're already working with, and Hunt's not here, so I'm not going to speak a whole lot on that, but generally what you're doing is when you clean it, it needs to go back into a clean area. And so I know that the properties that they're working on right now, where they're doing cleanup of furniture, they are having to establish a clean area to put that into, and it is they put plastic on it, and they have humidifiers or dehumidifiers in there, everything to keep it at the temperature and the humidity that it needs to be. So yes, it does need to stay clean once it's cleaned. But as far as the specific process of it, that's between them and the company that they hired to actually do the cleaning. So that's why I don't want to say what the process, the specific process is, but in general, yes, it does need to go back into a clean area once it's been cleaned. So, and like I say, this is probably not going to happen, but at a few houses, but we want you to know that we're willing to look at all of the houses, any of the ones that are moving out this summer, especially. If you want that second look, my housing staff and my environmental staff are willing to go with Hunt to look at it. So it's not just Hunt saying, yeah, it's good. It's my staff too that's there with you. And that way, if there is an issue, we identify it and we can get your furniture cleaned, and we can get any letters that the movers might need well in advance. So when it does come shipping day, we don't have any worries about whether or not the movers are going to want to take your furniture or not. So anyway, that's why we set up these processes. Again, the recommendations. I can't force you to have the pre-move inspections with us, but it's what we're offering to help you out in your moving process. Because I've done a couple of military moves myself. They're not fun. They're stressful. I don't want to add to it. I want to try to help make that move as best as it can be, because it's unpleasant at best. So next, all right, Diane's going to talk on the.
Or Diane does it. Let me just say thank you, Ed. So again, if you have any questions, by all means, please feel free to let us know. So that's our commitment to make sure that we get you what you need. That is not a problem. I mean, quite honestly, our expectation is we will not delay or prevent anybody from getting their household goods being shipped off. So if there are concerns, by all means, stop us here after the meeting. But again, going back to let me reemphasize again what Ed has said. If there's no mold issues, there should not be an issue at this point, because again, that's not the majority of the houses that we have here on JBSA-Randolph. But it's still going to be a factor that if it's a concern, we will still look at it. Whether you're doing a DD move or not, we'll still take a look at it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have Diane talk next. So what we have some Hunt slides to show what they've been doing. So they were unable to make it today. But they did want to present some information. So I'm going to have Diane talk about the progress. So when you look at the information that we have out here, I will tell you we have been working with Hunt pretty much every day in making sure that things, like for instance, we're going to talk about the pilot programs and a few others with the maintenance. So we do sit down, like I sit down and I have a conversation. We work with Chris Ratliff, who's at the operations level for within Hunt, where I sit down with him on a weekly basis going through these things to show that level of commitment. So what Diane's going to do is try to talk about what they're working on, but we're working on that through lock and step with them to make sure that we collectively, Hunt and the Air Force, JBSA, are making progress in taking care of you as our customer, the resident, what we have in terms of the houses. Okay, so there are some questions that we may not be able to answer if you see the information on the slide, but we will definitely take that back and we'll definitely get you an answer to that. So, thank you, Diane.
I wanted to wear a shirt that said I am not Hunt, but it was frowned upon. So my name's Diane Butler. I'm with the Military Housing Office. And we've been talking with Hunt for a while about getting a better notification system for work orders. And while Domino's has the Domino's, you can watch your pizza from order to the doorstep, we're almost there, but we're not quite there. So in the meantime, what they are committed to doing is letting people know when they receive the work orders. So there are 3 ways that you can turn in a work order. You can call them, you can email them, and you can also put it in through their website. They have committed themselves to replying to you to let you know that your work order has been received. Additionally, if there are any changes for the schedule or anything about the progress of it, they are going to email you and let you know. At the end of the work order, they are also going to reach out to you by telephone, and if they can't reach you by phone, they will send you an email to ensure that the work order has been completed to your satisfaction. Now, I'm going to jump in here and add one more thing to this. You can also reach out to the community director, and the number is hidden, sorry. It is 888-547-2041 if for any reason you don't get these notifications. In addition to that, my staff, the housing area has been divided between them. So they are trying to ensure that everything is taken care of. So if for some reason you don't get what you need from Hunt, or you don't hear back from them, or you just have concerns, please give them a call and let them know. Next slide.
Hey, Diane. Just a quick note. We tried submitting something to the system the other day, and it didn't work. The way we knew it didn't work was because we didn't receive an email response. Typically we do. So we ended up making a phone call and all worked out. But if you don't get an email back after you submit it into the system, chances are there's something wrong with the system. So try the phone call.
And that has been a concern. It's not an automated system. It is, but it's not. It's an automated system, but it doesn't give you a reply. What is supposed to happen is that Hunt is supposed to see that one has come in, if it goes through properly, and then let you know that they have received it and what you can expect going forward. So, like I said, we still have some kinks to work out, and hopefully they will work through those sooner rather than later. In addition, they are doing pilot programs. They have done 5 so far. There are 7 more in progress. I have been in a couple of these homes. The one thing that I noticed right off the bat was, regardless of where I went in the home, it felt the same temperature. That was new, especially in the 2-story duplexes. There's always been a drastic difference that you could feel as you walked around in the unit, and that was the one thing that I think I was the most impressed about, was the fact that the temperature was consistent throughout. So what they're doing is, for this pilot program, is they are inspecting all the gutters. So they want to keep the water away from the house, to keep the moisture away from the house. They're supposed to be putting in extensions to the downspouts if they are missing. They're clearing any blockages. They're going under the house. They're looking for any holes in the home. They're trying to seal the home. They're also putting in vent fans in the bathrooms. I think that's where the major problem for most folks is the bathroom. So they're putting in the new vent fans, and they have a humidity sensor inside of them. And from what I've been told, they will turn themselves on, turn themselves off. It's automatic. It's not something that you have to babysit. It comes on when the temperature or when the humidity gets to a level that the sensor tells it to come on. Also, I don't know what a jumper is, but they're putting those in the different areas to make the vents properly move the air around. I'm sorry, I don't know the technical term for that. Yeah, that. Sorry. They're also putting in inline dehumidification systems in the air handlers, and that is the part that is making the house consistent. So we've had really good success with the ones that they've done, and we're looking forward to seeing them do many more. In addition to that, they also do a duct cleaning and replace all the registers, and then do an inspection, and then the housing office goes over and does a walk afterwards and looks at the work. So it so far is looking good. Yes, ma'am.
We had our ducts cleaned last year when all of this started, and half of them weren't even removed. They were still painted over. So it looked like they kind of fixed the exterior of the
Yes, ma'am. The company that was out here doing these in the beginning is no longer working for Hunt. They found out that there were some issues, so I feel that if you put in a request, we can get that done again. Yes, sir.
How do we get on this pilot program? Because 3 months in, we found old black mold throughout our entire upstairs, kids' rooms, everywhere.
Okay.
So we went in, we did bought 2 dehumidifiers, one upstairs and downstairs, 24/7, and that's really affected our cost. They're not energy efficient.
Okay.
So I would love to be a part of this because we still, even in our bathrooms, we get mold. We get mold out about once, about 3 months, 2 months. But unfortunately, even right going, it's not as bad. But then again, how do we go for it? Sounds fantastic.
Okay. Get with my staff. Get them your name, and then we'll work with Hunt to get a visit so they can come over and look at it. Yes, ma'am.
Also part of the pilot program, and I just had a question because now that we have this vent going all day that's coming on and kicking off, if we notice an energy increase, are they going to change our baseline to then take care of that increase if it's not our choice to turn it on?
I will have to talk with Hunt about that. The baseline is adjusted monthly. So that's something that we'll have to look at your unit and see where you're falling and the other units that have had the work done. So that is something that we can get with them and talk about.
The pilot program baseline might be a little bit different than like.
It very well could be, yes. Okay, if there are no further questions. Whoops, I'm sorry, sorry? Uh-huh.
So I had called about my bathroom and the mold all on the wall, and what they recommended was I clean my walls with a solution. Is there a way that the self-help store can provide that solution for us to at least maintain this while we're waiting for the pilot thing, instead of us having to go and buy it ourselves?
I can ask Hunt that question.
Okay.
That should not be an issue, I don't think. Okay? Anyone else? I'm slow, so I just wanted to ask before I got my hands.
I just wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind, when we do have, right after these slides, we do have the open forum for everyone to ask questions. And we would really love if you come up and use the microphones. That way your question is captured on the video. They have plugged directly into the PA system so that our comments are going directly into their feed, but it doesn't necessarily pick it up when we're just out in the audience. So if you could do that, that would be really fantastic.
So can we go back one slide, please? So I just want to foot stomp. So the pilot program, I have to tell you that it's going to be a good start in terms of getting things done. So one of the things that we worked with Hunt, and I have to give them praise, to be quite candid. So the pilot program is looking at the entire house in order to resolve the issues. That's what we do within the civil engineering community on our facilities. We do the same thing. So even here now we have facilities that part of the temperature issue and even some of the mold issue is excessive moisture. That's critical. So the fact that they're looking at the inline dehumidification process, and they're looking at sealing all the penetrations and the moisture coming up. By doing the pilot, what they're looking at, so people understand why we're doing it, is to see what's working and what's not working. And if it works, then the expectation is we're going to export that out to all the different houses. Because eventually, everybody has moisture issues, especially if you're in South Texas. The humidity in San Antonio, that's just where we are. If you were in Florida, you'd be in the same situation. So how do we solve that to minimize the issues of having, mold or excessive moisture that can cause mold build up into your home? This is what they're doing, and from a engineering perspective, it makes sense because we do the exact same thing. So I want you to reassure you that if you're concerned about what they're doing, they're following the process. They're doing the right things. The issue is they cannot do it for all 317 units all right now, because there will be some houses that may be just a little bit different, but at least what they're trying to do is create the slate of options on what makes sense, what's going to solve 60 or 80% of the problem. And that's what we're working towards. So we have been working with them to make sure that we're hitting the big things that will make a better and quicker improvement to your house and not take several months or several years to get to that end state. Okay? It also has to be cost effective. It cannot be something that's so cost prohibitive that they can't do it for only 2 or 3 units. That's not the intent. Okay? So if you want to be on the pilot program, work with our wonderful housing staff up here. We can work with Hunt to do that. They'll have to, they'll go back and look at your house, but they'll have to put you on the list, because what they're trying to do now is focus on houses that we do have higher moisture contents, that we know that there are significant issues out there from that standpoint. Now, if you do have it and we don't know, then please tell us. We don't want you to live with it, because then if we don't know, then we can't help. Okay? So great questions from that perspective, but I do want to put it in perspective that this is a good thing. So when people say, why is it taking so long? Because it does take a little time. We have to do it correctly, because what I don't want to do is go in there, do something, and it doesn't work, but yet we're going to go do it anyway, and then we're going to look like we're not solving the problem. We're just putting a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid. Okay? So let's go to the next slide, please. So again, this is the time that we're going to do our open forum. So again, I do ask that if you can, please come up to the microphone. Definitely, please, if you want, again, as what gentleman said, if you want to state your name, your address, great. If not, we're okay with that. So we do have note takers out here taking notes to make sure that we do capture your request. So also, if you have requirements, obviously, please see one of us, and we'll gladly make sure that we get you in contact with the right folks. Also, but in the interest of, for everyone that is here, we do want to give everybody an opportunity, like we did last time, everybody an opportunity to have the opportunity to speak. So if you please come up, please, look at your talk, do your questions, but then also if somebody else is waiting in line, let's be respectful of them so that they in turn can ask their questions too. And if everybody gets through it and there's still time available, we can go back through another cycle. Even despite that, even after the town hall, we will still be here to ask your specific questions, and we can address them from that standpoint. Any questions so far? Okay, so we'll go ahead and, if whoever wants to come on up, I'll put my mic over here. And, oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead, sir.
Before we get into the...
Oh, very good. Thank you. I didn't see it. If I had my glasses, I could see it, right? It's a little mic.
Before we get into the public comments, I just wanted to give a quick update for those folks that remember a conversation that come up a couple of times about the school board and their support for what we're all experiencing here with the housing and our students that are attending the school district. So Mr. Johnson, the school board superintendent, wasn't able to be with us today, but I did want to share with you that at the school board meeting in April, there was an official school board vote, and so they did put into record their decision for support of our families and their students that are currently enrolled with Randolph Field Independent School District. So the decision that the board came to was that any family that is forced to move out of Randolph housing, forced, not choice, but forced to move out of Randolph housing, their students on a case-by-case basis will be allowed to remain in the district for the duration of their time in school. So to accomplish that, what you'll need is the Air Base Wing and Hunt will work together to provide you with documentation that you had to move out of your house, that it wasn't a choice, that you had to move out, and that in turn would be provided to the school district. And the superintendent and his team will work with you to make sure that the process is established to keep your child in the district throughout the time that you all are here. And of course, if you have any questions, I can always field those as well during the Q&A session.
I want to say I appreciate the efforts. My home's going to be on the pilot program, and appreciate the injection of housing office. Diane, I appreciate your efforts. But one thing I want to ask, so I've had 3 neighbors that have had significant mold damage on outer octagon, senior leader housing, as well as the field grade housing. And so my family took it upon ourselves to protect ourselves. We did mold testing. I did air quality sampling as well as physical sampling, and to the bill of close to $1,000. I've got some significant results that have come back, but I would like if we could advocate for Hunt maybe to reimburse me. That's a large amount. I took that upon myself when my neighbors were having their households taken apart, mold damage dealt with. So I'm just asking, can we do that? I know, ma'am, Adaptive came to speak to you a couple of weeks ago. That evening, they came and did mold testing for my household. So I would like to, that's a large price to pay just to make sure I'm in a safe house. But I'm thankful that we've had the pilot program. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and thanks for coming tonight. It's always good to see you, and thank you for bringing it. Common challenge is mold, and taking it upon yourself to do the mold testing. It's hard to retroactively reimburse you for that. I will ask for Vinny, our lawyer, to provide a legal review of that. However, I think you've opened a door, though, for us to talk about what the Air Force can do in terms of mold testing, and the fact that we're also doing a pilot test on 10 homes here, and I'll let Richard talk to that piece of it. I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of the reimbursement piece. It can get pretty tricky when it comes to reimbursement, but I'm not going to rule anything out.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. What I would recommend to you is to just have direct contact with the landlord or their property manager, and in this case it's Hunt. If there were any reports that were generated, turn it over to them. I'm sure that if you did so already, that probably contributed to you being a part of this pilot program and the remediation of your house. But I would contact them. I would submit whatever documentation you have to them, and if you want to make a demand for reimbursement, then go ahead and make a demand for reimbursement. And if you're unsure of how to do that, then you can come in for legal assistance, and there you can be put in contact with an attorney that can help you make that demand. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
All right, and when you look at what the Air Force is trying to do, so the Air Force as an enterprise, we do have the ability, we're working towards the ability to do air quality sampling. So the Air Force, through the Air Force Civil Engineer Center, has put contracts in place to do that. So what we're doing is we're testing that capability right now. Randolph is one of the test locations. We're going to start off with, initially 2 to 3 homes and build our way up. And we're going to see what is the protocol we're going to use, how we're going to use the results, and how we're going to link that in terms of making decisions, whether it's with the housing owner or whether it's moving people in and out, making changes. So that was a common theme. We were trying to see, can we do our own mold testing as an Air Force to help push some of the decision making out to say, is there a problem, yes or no? So although some folks have done that on their own, Hunt has done that, we, the Air Force, are now trying to see how we can leverage our capability to do that. And that allows us to use our Air Force funds where we suspect a potential issue, we could potentially intervene and help push it to a resolution. So the Air Force Civil Engineer Center has the lead for it, and we are one of the test locations to try to work that out. So as soon as we get that moving further in the process, we'll come back and bring that as a follow-on to the next town hall.
That took a little bit longer than we were hoping. We were hoping to get that right away because we had the contracts in place. We were ready to go, but we were just held up from a big Air Force point of view until they got their legal pieces in line. But what we're hoping, though, is that this will avoid you having to contract anyone in the future. You are the people that follow you to do any mold testing. So if you as a resident are demanding or wanting mold testing, and the privatized owner, Hunt in this case, isn't willing to do that, then we can step in and do it for you in those cases. So we don't have this kind of challenge in the future.
Right, because that way, now it's us and Hunt now working the issue and not trying to put that burden onto you. You bring up a concern, If it's not getting resolved, we now, as your advocate, we now have an opportunity to go out there and try to get resolution, or at least bring more data to the conversation. So as soon as we get more, as soon as it progresses more into the process, we'll continue to bring it up as part of the town hall.
With respect to the lead issue, there was a memorandum that came out that the residents and their dependents can go through the clinic and get the lead testing. So myself and my daughter did that. She's still in Deers, but my older son that lives with us is not in Deers. So the last paragraph of the memorandum indicated that there would be some sort of plan for those that were outside of the realm of using the clinic. The results that came back from the lab, whoever the nurse is or the practitioner would call, because we had to leave our phone number, and has left messages, but since she couldn't get a hold of me, my cell number, I don't get signal in the building because I'm at Fort Sam, but I live over here. Then she wouldn't leave a message, so I still haven't received the results. She did say after the third attempt they will send a certified letter. I haven't seen a certified letter. So at this point, I mean, I haven't checked with the clinic, but I just kind of want to know what the whole process was for this, the system that was put in place for the lead testing.
Thank you. If you can get with me after, or I guess now I can get your name, I can get that results. I'm part of the medical group here, so I'll reach out to our guys just to see what the results, so we can get that to you.
Major
Arrington, Arrington.
All right, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we can do, ma'am, just to make sure, so I'll have, Ed get with you to get your name and address, and we'll work with the medical folks to make sure that we will track it also as an action to make sure that it gets done.
Thanks for your question. And that just for the larger group, we had about 100 families that took us up on the lead testing a couple months ago, and none of them came back with any reportable results. None of them crossed that threshold. I can't speak more to that because I don't have all the results in front of me, but that was a good news story. That was peace of mind, and we're grateful to our clinic for offering up that service. We do want to get you your results though, so you're not sitting in limbo, and also answer your question about your son that's not in Deers anymore.
Okay, so I had 3 things really fast. First one was for you in the end. What do you mean by forced to move off base? So if my daughter is so sick she can't participate in school, I'm choosing to leave. I'm not being forced, but our house is not being fixed. So I just wanted you to clarify that.
Allison, I'll take that one. It's an art, not a science. So I will say, having worked with you over the last couple of months, we will work with you. We will work with the school district and make sure that your medical issues are documented.
Okay. And then I have a question, because I'm part of the pilot program. It was quoted 5 days of us being out of our house. We're now hitting day 21. And so I had a question about the per diem. Is it per family member or per household? Because if they think we can live off of $61 a day for food and everything else for the last month, like almost a full month, I'm just wondering who decides the amount, because I've heard some people getting like over $100 a day. Some people are getting less than $60 a day. Who decides that, and how do we get reimbursed for that? That would be more for, I think, Diane.
I'll start with that. I'll have everyone jump in if they have a better answer. But that's a discrepancy that we uncovered by talking to the different families. So we presented that information back to Hunt in that it should be per person. So 61 is a single person per diem, and we've advocated for them to standardize that per diem so it's by family member.
Okay.
I don't have a specific answer for your case, so we'll need to go back to Hunt specifically.
And then my last comment, so we got moved to TLF, and we're having the issues that are similar to our home in our TLF. And so I'm wondering why the TLF areas are not being maintained better, since they're run, like, people are paying to live there a lot more. I feel like we're having issues with cockroaches, mold. Our bathroom upstairs, our tiles are just like, if you step onto the tile, it squishes into the floor and black just pours out into the bathroom. I mean, we're literally leaving a sick home to go to a sick TLF. So I'm just wondering what's being done to make the TLF safer for families that are coming and leaving.
So the TLFs are actually my responsibility to go and maintain. So we'll go and we'll take a look at specifically what's the concern with your unit, and then I'll have, our facility maintenance folks go out there and resolve it. We'll work with our force support squadron team members, and we'll make sure that we eliminate those issues. That's purely within my control, and I can go fix that.
Okay. Because, we just went away for a week and a half, and we didn't have to get medications. My daughter was completely
Yes,
sleeping
ma'am.
just fine. Now we're back in TLF, and it's like instantly we're back to having allergies and waking up sick and
Yes, ma'am.
sounding sick all the time. So,
Yeah, anything that's TLF driven has nothing to do with Hunt. That's purely my responsibility.
Okay.
So we'll make sure we get somebody out there quick.
Cool. And another option, if you're experiencing that, is we can work with Hunt to try to move you off the base. So I know they've done that for a couple of families. They put them up in different residence inns, or was it BR?
Yeah, they've done B&Bs, and they've
B&Bs
done,
or not B&Bs.
suites where they actually have some capability for
Airbnb.
kitchens and some cooking and so forth.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alpha.
I'm a new resident. I'm supposed to move in on the 8th of July, and I was just wondering if there's any way to find out the status of my house. I used to live on base, and I'm just curious. This is very new to me because we didn't seem to have these problems before, and now I'm a bit concerned. So I was wondering if there's any way to find out the status of the house that I'm supposed to move into.
So, sir, actually, we can help you. So Diane and her team can work directly with you and figure out where you're moving. So as long as that shouldn't be an issue. We can help from that perspective.
Okay.
So that's not a problem.
Great, thank you.
Our family was one of the recipients of the pilot program, and I have to say, being back in the home for almost, it's about 3 weeks now, going on 3 weeks, it has been a clear difference in the humidity levels in the house. So I can say, for those who are waiting to have it done or in the process of getting it done, it seems to be productive. We have no complaints in how the system works with the HVAC unit and everything that they did with the dehumidification system. We have returns now in every room. We discovered that, like I think they mentioned earlier, there's only one, which that wasn't sufficient for the home, which is why there's such a problem with humidity. Also, one of the things I would say for people who are going to be getting ready to probably have the program implemented in their house, one thing my husband and I did make sure we addressed with Hunt was we understood that they were going to go in and do all the things they were going to do to rectify the humidity, but we also wanted remediation done in terms of the mold that we had growing on our windows, around the windowsills, on the windows. And I have to say they did a very good job at removing it. It was kind of surprising to go back into the house and see the difference in the pictures that I had when we first came to the town hall, because the windows were so bad we didn't even want to touch them. I wouldn't even allow my kids to touch them. Now we can see what they actually are supposed to look like, and it looks really good. It just feels better to be in a house that's clean, and we know that, it's safer. The only issue I have with the way, and I know this is all like case by case, I mean, you only have 10, 11 homes you're working with now, but for us, I think we might have been the second or the third one that was being completed, and I understand like there's a lot of moving parts figuring it all out, but we did have an inconvenience of having to move out of TLF because the time frame they gave wasn't really realistic. And I think with anything with contracting, you can't really give an exact time. So they told us 5 days, like was said earlier, and it turned into 11 days. And we had to move out of TLF. There was a big, huge issue of us not having anywhere to go for a couple of days, and they tried to figure it all out and move us around and move some other families around that must have been waiting to get into our TLF. So I did find it very inconvenient. They tried their best to, rectify it, but it was still very inconvenient to move a family of 6. And when I had to move, my husband was TDY in DC. So I was by myself, and I was actually really sick with bronchitis. One of my neighbors actually came and helped me move. 4 kids and 2 dogs to move, things to another TLF, which was actually a smaller one, was not convenient. But that's probably the one thing I would say, like maybe they can extend out the time they're putting in for the TLF so that families wouldn't have to be inconvenienced like we were. But overall, I have to say, everything has gone well. The humidity levels, we have like a monitor upstairs on this, we live in a duplex. And basically, whenever the temperature changes outside, we notice the humidity level obviously will change, go up. And that's when it kicks on and it brings it back down to 50% or lower. So we no longer have to run dehumidifier in our house all day long, which is great. So what I want to say is just make sure you guys do have them, make sure they're cleaning things when they come in to do this, because that's, I think, key. If they're coming in to like remediate the home as well as put the new system in, that's really important. And so far, so good. So I have no complaints with that.
That's amazing feedback. Thank you so much. I'm grateful that your house you're feeling more secure and safe, and I'm grateful that the pilot program worked for you. And I take that feedback about the inconvenience and having to extend and move TLFs, same with Allison, having to stay 21 days versus 5. That's great feedback too, because especially as we go into the summer months, unfortunately, you would be on a space available basis. So in terms of priority levels, that's something we need to take into consideration. So maybe we work with Hunt and offer that they move off base, especially when there's no school in session, so we don't have to worry about getting the kids to school. That might be the best route to go.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that was one of the initial requests from families, where because school was in session, there was a request to stay on base to help mitigate some of the impact of being off base. But now that school is out, at least for the summer months, we'll take a look at seeing if we can make that happen. So the timing, I will tell you just a little bit of it, you're correct. So initially when they looked at it, they looked at thinking that they could potentially get a lot of this done within a 1-week period. But as they dug deeper into it, the reality was there was a lot more issues that had to be fixed. It had to be tested. So as a result of it, it did require, quite honestly, in our expectation, we were anticipating probably 2 weeks at a minimum versus just 1. But they were trying to be very aggressive because they were trying to minimize the impact to you out of the house and trying to do it very aggressively. So they realized it just took a little bit longer to get things done, because it's not doing it fast, it's doing it right. Because if we're going to inconvenience you, we want to do it one time, so that when you move back into the house, I'm not having to move you back out again a week later because it didn't fix the problem. So thank you for your patience, appreciate it.
My house, I've only been in there for about 6 months. And when we moved in, we seen lots of mold. But now my mold is changing colors. It's now red. And I asked about this when they came and did a walkthrough. They said that they were going to let Hunt know what's going on and people will be sent out. And I have not heard anything. I've told Hunt about this, and they said, well, we'll have someone come and look, but they look at it and say, oh, we'll just spray some stuff on there and you'll be good. But if we keep cleaning it over and over and it keeps coming back and it's no longer black, it's red, what do we do? Because I do have asthma and it does make it hard for me to breathe when I'm taking a shower, which I should not have to hurry up and take a quick shower just so I can catch my breath or hold the door open so I can breathe. Not only that, also in my master bedroom, it's the windows around there. It makes it hard for me to sleep at night because of my breathing. And a couple of times my husband said that I have stopped breathing because I'm having an asthma attack in my sleep. So what do you recommend about this?
Thanks, Lakeisha. First, I'd like to say, I'd like to have one of our team walk through your home tomorrow with Hunt so we can get that documented, and then I'll turn it over to Richard in terms of the way ahead. But I think tomorrow, if you're available or whenever at your convenience, if we could walk through, that would be helpful for us to document that.
Yes, ma'am. So that's what I was going to recommend. So what we'll do is we'll have one of our staff, as one of the senior leaders or one of the housing reps, also go out to your house. We'll bring Hunt with us, and then we'll do a typical walkthrough to document and look at what are the concerns. Then we'll work with Hunt, typically Mike, who's their environmental expert. And then we'll figure out when can they actually physically come out and see what are some of the challenges, and then what we need to do to try to mitigate it. So that we can do tomorrow at your convenience or a time that works for you.
Okay, because my husband's TDY right now, so I would rather wait for him to come
That's
back.
not a problem.
But, and I just thought about another thing. Also, I had called Hunt about the smell in the house. It's like, the best way I could put it, it smells like moldy roaches. It's like mold and roaches put together. And I keep asking, hey, every week, can you please come and spray? Can you please come and spray? And I get, well, you have to wait 2 weeks. But I keep seeing activity.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's not good. I'm not used to living like that. And I shouldn't have to pay all this money to live the way I'm living.
Yes, ma'am. So what we can do as part of the walkthrough, we'll look at the entire unit. We're not just going to focus on the concerns of the mold, but we'll look at everything. If there's concerns about whether it's flooring, whether it's pest management, whether it's windows, whatever you want to show us and highlight to us, we will walk through it, we will document it, we will work with Hunt. We track by unit, everything that's an issue by unit, and then we will continue to track that. And then again, my weekly meetings with Hunt, they have to then tell me what are they doing to resolve that. And they sit down with Diane and her staff pretty much on a daily basis to say, track your issues. We shouldn't have to make you submit a work order. They should be able to submit it if nothing else, but we'll work through that process also, because what they're going to say is, we'll have you submitted a work order, right? Because that's what starts the process in order to make things happen. So we'll work through that as well to make sure that we can get you into the system so now you can start tracking and see where we are in terms of getting progress.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just want to let you know, we'll be sure to share our slides online. And also, there's some other updates that the Air Force is pursuing. We didn't walk into those tonight, but there's some pretty powerful things coming along in the next couple of months to include not only that toll-free line, which is great, but a resident bill of rights. We're setting up resident councils, greater work order transparency that we've talked a little bit about, advocacy at the tenant level, and some other higher level Air Force efforts that are going to help us standardize leases and dispute processes and those kinds of things that I think overall will help you not only here in this assignment, but your future assignments going forward.
So when we first moved, we've been there less than a year, but we have our 30 days notice in, so we'll be leaving, moving off base. I was able to do that. I have children that I'm putting in different schools, and my husband doesn't work on this base anyway, so the convenience factor is not here, so we're going to go ahead and move. But when we moved here, we had to sign a form that said that we knew there was mold in the houses, but housing assured us that there wasn't really mold in the houses, that there was maybe one case in the last 5 years or something, there was just cases of mildew. And in my mind, I pictured, your shower gets a little funny in the corner. I wasn't picturing what happened to my house when it started to, I guess it's condensation that makes it happen. So anyway, it's not, I wasn't as extreme as some of the other people, so I didn't bring anything up in the last town hall, and I immediately clean it. So I didn't have anyone walk through because there was nothing to see, because I'd already taken care of it. But we had to put a ladder in the bathtub to reach, because the ceilings are really high, and it gets all over the ceilings and the outside walls in the bathroom, not just in the shower area. I have a closet that you walk through that goes into the bathroom, master bathroom, and I had a number of things that were ruined in that closet because the whole outside wall was mildewy, and I didn't realize it until too late. And now that I'm starting to move things out, I'm finding like where I put my books, just down at the bottom of them, it's mildewy from being in a built-in bookshelf against the back wall. Okay, so those are kind of the things that I have. They're not huge. We have had stuff ruined. I've thrown them away, and I'm a little nervous about the furniture thing because I haven't looked yet. But I'm assuming it's all fine because we have baseboards, and that would keep it away from the walls, right? So what I wanted to say was, is there some way that I can I've lived there a year now. I know how to live in that house. Like, I know what's wrong with the house. But I feel like when I went to hunt and we took this house, she told me that the lady that lived there before really loved it. And then I had a neighbor come tell me, and this is all word of mouth, but that she actually really hated it, and that there was lots of bugs, and there were when we first got here, and they're under control now. And I will say to people who are dealing with bugs that getting everything weather stripped is like huge. So have housing come do that. They will. Look at where the light's coming in. And but if I could somehow let your office know, like.
Absolutely. I was just about ready to say.
Yeah, can I just write up a document, write up a note or something and say, this is what's wrong with this house, because you're not going to see it when you do your walkthrough because, I will have cleaned it, right? So.
I would like to, if you didn't get a chance to fill out our survey, and if you have time, it's just however little or as much as you want to write down, and then we have captured everything on every survey in a spreadsheet that we're tracking.
Okay.
And so we're running through that spreadsheet every week with Hunt, and even if it's not there now, it'll be a historical document that we can use to, as we do our walkthroughs during changeover that Richard mentioned in the beginning.
Okay.
Then we're going to look for that, and then we're going to have that for the next resident. Ideally, hopefully, what we're hoping to get someday is kind of like when you go to buy a car and you have a Carfax, you have a history of the home. We'd love to present that to our homeowners, we our home residents. We don't have that permission yet, but that would be something that ideally we'd be able to do.
Great. That would be great, because even a reconfiguration, I think, of not having the closet with 2 outside walls next to a bathroom, even if they redid the closet, I think that would help take care of some of the mold issues. So I can give all those suggestions because I've been living there, so I'll pass that on to you. Thank you.
The windows, during the winter, we'd stand by multiple windows within the house, and you can feel, even closed, you can feel them coming in. Is there, and it's not something I've heard about anywhere in the housing, it's just energy-wise. I know we're wasting tons and tons of energy. Now I have 6 kids, so we use more energy, but still, is there any looking at the windows to replace the windows anytime soon? Probably not with all these other issues, I was just curious.
So that is something that Hunt has been looking at, so it is on their radar. So the Hunt, the windows specifically and the duplex units, that has been an issue, for, quite honestly, for many, many years. So they're single pane windows that they're just not energy efficient. So that is on their radar scope, but quite honestly, in terms of the capital improvements that they have to focus on, it's on the list, but honestly, and rightly so, it's at the bottom of the list, because what they're going to invest on is the HVAC, the roofs, the ceiling. Yes, sir. So it's on there, but it's just, so whenever they try to, so it's gotten close a few times, but when it does, then we have a storm comes through, or we have a hurricane and then it knocks off roofs, or we have penetrations because of the weather coming in, and then they have to readjust their priorities. But it is on their list to go do. It just doesn't quite get there at times. Yes, sir. So we do track that, and we know that if we can do that, it will make a difference. But the biggest issue when it comes to the windows, the lady said before, it's really the sealing of the windows to keep part of the moisture out, keep the pest out, and then that in itself will help at least a little bit. The fact that they're still single pane, you're right, it's not going to do much in terms of your utility bill.
I have one more thing. So next week is what we're calling a base beautification week. So around all of our installations, we're going to be spending some time cleaning up our own spaces within the working areas. And I would just encourage you as residents of this community, when you're out driving around, coming to and from the base, if you see something that doesn't look right, can you let us know? If you see, cones out there or trash or unsafe conditions, this is our only, we're gonna do it all year long, but this is our week that we're dedicating to really make things bright around here. So if there's improvement areas, we'd love to hear your comments. And I know we've talked in the past about our playgrounds and those kinds of things that help you enjoy this community even more. Broken sidewalks, curbs, all that stuff. We want to know about it. So if you could let us know, you can go through Diane or contact us directly. We would love to hear your comments.
So if I may, ma'am, also a couple of things as the summer months become, further into as in heat and humidity become an issue. So I do want to throw a couple of safety aspects out there that help us. So if you see that, because if we do have a dry summer, the concrete's going to shift a little bit. So as you see sidewalks, especially as we get closer to the school year, one of the things that we're working with Colonel Garrison and his staff in terms of the traffic safety working group, we will go back and start repainting the crosswalks that will lead to the schools. So if you can help us with a little bit of that, if you see something that could be an issue, by all means, please let us know. So we're going to paint and restripe as we get closer to that school year. But also understand that as the summer months come, especially if you have pets, sometimes what we have a tendency to see is that those crispy critters called skunks in particular will have a tendency to try to go where it's cooler, where there's food, where there's water, or so forth. So we typically see an increase in skunks. We typically see an increase a little bit in the tree or roof rats. They're literally rats that are about this long. Those are just common in this area. But if the way to keep them out is please try to watch that. We see that during the summer months. I've been at Randolph for many, many years. That seems to be a norm. It becomes a cycle, especially if you look at, trying to get the crawl spaces in the houses and you have, water or dog food to staying outside. It just becomes an easy target. And then as a result of that, then you're going to wonder why there's a dead squirrel, possum, skunk under your house, and you wonder why it stinks. So if you can help me with that, that would be great, because that'll also help hunt in that regard. Because what I try to do also to help them is I try to keep some of those pests out of base housing. That's my responsibility. But it's hard to do that if there's a food source that I can't compete with. So I can put traps out, I can put bait out, but if they're not going to come to they won't come to my baits if there's food sources that are readily available and there's no predator or there's no capture, and that's typically going to be in housing. So if you can help me with that during the summers, that would be great. Because also from a bash perspective, every once in a while, we'll get, because we have skunks, we'll have possums, we'll have squirrels and stuff, then the foxes will come in or the coyotes will try to come in on the airfield, and that creates a problem for us. So if you can help me from that perspective, it would be great. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
It just jogged my memory with you talking about the rodents and animals. Has anyone here had any issues with birds in their chimney? Because we just discovered that there's some birds in our chimney. I can hear them in the living room. I'm just scared that they're going to just come down one day, though. But it's just something we discovered this past week. Has anyone had any issues with that, or how do you guys go about getting that?
So if you can work with us, so we'll work with Hunt. So birds if there's a way to get in, birds will find ways to get in, because again, a chimney is a good habitat for them.
Right.
So there is ways to get them out. It just depends. We'll have to figure out what type of bird it is. So there are some birds that are protected by the Migratory Treaty Act that we have to be careful with, but we can find ways to work with you from that standpoint. The intent is actually, if there's a penetration in the chimney, we need to cover up that penetration to where they don't get in from that.
Yeah, that's my concern, because I'm
Yes, ma'am.
thinking that's probably where some bugs and other things are able to get in. But we definitely we've been hearing them this past week.
Yes, ma'am.
They're in there, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we'll definitely get with you as a result of this town hall, and we'll work with Hunt to get somebody out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Benny?
Thank you all for your feedback. I just wanted to emphasize, I know that General Lenderman, Mr. Trevino, Ms. Butler have all indicated if you guys have issues, please contact them and they will help facilitate to get your issue resolved. But I do want to emphasize also to please continue to submit those work orders. Do it through the website or do it by calling the community director. It's very important that you document your issues with Hunt so that they can be aware of it also. We can help facilitate to try to get these issues resolved, but it's very important that you contact the landlord directly and make sure that you put them on proper notice that you are having these issues. And in addition to that, it also creates a record for yourself. And if there's any other correspondence that you've been sending, any letters or anything to the community director or to Hunt or whoever it is, just make sure that you keep those records for yourself and protect yourself.
Well, that's actually a very good point, because that way, going back to the gentleman indicating that, he had done his own mold testing and he's looking to try to find a way to get reimbursement. So there have been some residents in previous months or years that have gone out and done certain things on their own in order to fix their house. But they have also looked at potentially using the Air Force legal assistance to try to seek ways to get reimbursed for those. And it helps to have that documentation. So having the work orders identified, first and foremost, we can now track it to go get it fixed. And at that point, there's an audit trail that works with that, and then we will work it till it gets done. So please do that. I know sometimes it could be, so like what you indicated, it may not have worked the first time, but you did with the phone call. We ask that you continue to do that, because that's the only way Hunt can go out and fix, and they are on notice to go and do that as the landlord. They have that legal and they have that responsibility to go make it happen. Okay? So thank you, Vinny. Appreciate it.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming tonight. We appreciate your time and especially your feedback. Our next town hall, I imagine, will probably be towards the end of the summer. I'll be out of town for a good chunk of the 15th of July through the 15th of August. So when I come back at in the middle of, towards the end of August, we'll reconvene and see the progress that we're making. But in the meantime, there are so many people that want to help you. So we've got Diane and James and the housing team, Richard, of course, our legal assistants, Ed, everybody up here. So don't be shy. I know you're not. Come forward with whatever we can do to help you, and we'll look forward to having a safe and happy summer. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much. And we'll be sending the slides out with the contact information. Thank you very much.